Anderson's speech talks last year about how our brains work. You've read his stuff. We've read various accounts of how our brains are social and shared and how trauma affects our brains. And Stacy is going to show us a way they have found that is a skit that can explain this to people in a way they understand it easily. So over to Stacy. You can say whatever you want.
Now this is just a simple illustration of what happens to the brain in trauma. And Thaddeus and we used this in our last equipping session together, and we did it right in the lesson number 2. We found it appropriate right before you talk about the behaviors that someone might show who's experienced bad things. And so this is our skit. Would you come on up? Okay. So this is John's brain. John's brain. Okay. Can you hand me a mic and I'll walk? Okay. Thank you. Okay. These folks are representing John's brain. This is John's adult brain here. And with his adult brain, he reasons, he thinks logically. Now this other part of his brain, the second part here, this is the part always scanning the environment for danger. This is the part of his brain that helps him with all the survival things. So scanning for danger all the time. Now Ray was a veteran in the war, and he went through some pretty traumatic experiences. So most of the time, he does just fine. John does just fine. But sometimes, especially when he hears a loud noise, this is what happens. The sheet represents his fight, flight, and freeze reaction. And do you see how John's survival part of his brain, the lower part of his brain, is now shut off from the adult part of his brain? Okay, let's do that again. After John goes, maybe he goes to a healing group. He's part of a healing group or some other restorative thing that helps him. So now, in John's daily life, he's going along. And of course, his lower brain's scanning the environment, looking for danger. And another loud noise. This time, John, push the curtain. This time, John, the curtain does go up again, but his adult brain is working better, so he's able to push that response down. So now his adult brain, he's thinking with his whole brain now that he's been through that process. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Stacy. What do you think? Comments? Oh, you can't say anything without a microphone, but she said it's nice that it makes it a normal process.
For some people who are dealing with trauma, if they were to realize that they're reacting that way, it may come across shameful to them. Like, why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. Where that kind of makes it legitimate, normal, and then here's what happens. So it's a good visual.
Yeah, it's not about it's not shameful. It's what happens with your brain when you experience these things, so you can understand these things. Good. Well, thank you, Stacy, and lower brain. You were very good. Dana, are you available? What we would like to do now is to take give you a couple updates, and Dana's going to talk about the website and how the database is. You can do. Oh, wait a second. No.
There it is.
So you can look at that and.
Great.
Do you know how to use my screen?
Yes. Okay. Very good. All right, so we wanted to give you a little tour of our remodeled facilitator website. For those that are following the live stream, we're not going to be able to show you this screen. So if you're following the live stream and you know what I mean when I say the facilitator website, go ahead and log into that, where you'll go to the THI site, and in the upper right-hand corner, you'll have the facilitator home and the login. So put your login if you're following us online, and then you can see what I'm talking about. So you know that after someone goes through an initial training, they receive a password, or they're supposed to receive a password, to this facilitator site where they can download all sorts of resources that they're going to use when they lead their healing groups during their practicum. Historically, this site has not been very easy to navigate, and so people have tended not to use it and have tended just to email the trainer and say, "Where's that form again?" And the trainers get really frustrated. Now this will be easier for everybody. So we've tried to clump the resources into the easiest categories that we could. You'll see that the top two boxes are the requests that we get most often. The first one is certificates. Where do I get the PDFs for the certificates, either to give a participation certificate to the people that just went through my healing group, or later down the line if they're training others to find the certificates. So you can click on certificates there, and then you will see all your options for certificates perfectly listed there. The kids' certificates, the adults, and then you can click on one of them, and instantly you can get it. You can type in the names and print it off right there. Now, how do I get back? There it is. Aha, okay. So that's where our certificates are. Then reports. I see. So that's a helpful feedback for us in terms of feedback. Right? So when you see the English word there, that's what you want to click on. If you were looking for the Spanish materials, you're going to click on Spanish. And there's all the same certificates, but in Spanish. And then very soon to come, the French ones will be loaded as well. And at some point in the future, we'll have the Arabic options as well. Let me go back. I want to show you then that next to the certificates, we've got reports. And you've got all of the different types of reports that you could need to report on the healing group you just led, or an initial equipping session, a kids session, a mini training session, convening, etc. So that's where you can get your report, download it, and then submit it after it's been filled out. Then we go back again. We've got 4 categories that are left. Classic, or the adult version of trauma healing. You've got your children and teens, story-based and audio, and then convening and community of practice all together. And within each one of them, you're going to find just the whole list of resources that you would need. This one, for example, that's for adult classic, we've got our healing group materials in the left-hand column and equipping session materials in the right-hand column. And we've categorized them into sections like promoting your healing group, preparing for your healing group. So, download all these, start printing them out because you'll need these when you lead your healing group. And then afterwards, reporting on your healing group. Same thing for the equipping, promoting it, preparing for it, and then afterwards, reporting it. And then we've got some additional materials for the advanced equipping session, since most of the materials are the same in the initial and the advanced, but some are different. And then some additional resources down at the bottom about creating new materials, contextualizing. So that's where you can find those things. Back. All right. Again, with the children's, it's formatted in the same way. Preparing for your healing group or your equipping session for the kids, reporting it, and then additional materials if you're doing an equipping session. And teens coming soon. I'll just show you the last 2 quickly, and then later on you can explore it and enjoy it fully and just marvel at the simplicity and the clarity of it. I do think you'll enjoy it. I have shown... No, but I was very much involved in trying to simplify it, because too often as I've been presenting it at training sessions, I've just gone, I can see the look of confusion on everybody's face. So this now, the last 2 sessions where I've showcased this, people were like, yeah, maybe they were just being kind to me, but I really think that this is great. Here's all your story-based. Here's the audio scripts, all the forms and templates you could want. And then the last thing is the convening and community of practice. Again, 2 columns. For the convening session, that's where we've got all of the brochures listed, because we thought usually at convening sessions is when people want to print out the brochures in advance and hand them out to people. And then some templates for a community of practice, some PowerPoints even, both for convening and community of practice. So as you start exploring this, if you find that there's holes in this, things that should be on there that we haven't put on there, please let us know, and we'll get it loaded as quickly as we can. But we definitely want our facilitators to easily navigate this so they don't have to be contacting you on a weekly basis asking for the materials. Okay, any questions right now? Ray?
Is the latest handbook on this website?
Is the latest handbook on the website? We've had some back and forth going on, but yes, it is there in the equipping session. So if you are back in equipping, classic adults.
It's the starter is on the first part, and then the full handbook is lower down.
Here we go. Starter handbook. You can pull up the starter handbook there.
But now when you click that, will it actually, is the PDF there? I didn't check that. Oh, no.
It links there. All right.
That's the problem.
All right.
Need to put it back up. Sorry, that's a good thing.
Thank you. There we go.
Fiji was asking this morning, so we'll get it
All right.
back up.
Joanna, question.
So you're saying that the Arabic will be forthcoming in various dialects or just one of them?
Standard. The question was the Arabic. Are we going to have various dialects? No, we're going to have the standard one.
There is the South Sudanese Arabic. There is the Chadian Arabic. But if you're talking Middle East, there'll be one Arabic. And we won't make the whole web. Don't worry. We're not there to put the other ones on. But I think you're asking about Middle East, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, one.
Okay.
Some of you are aware we have an impact research project underway. We started last June. We have a team of, research people who are advising and putting it together. So our aim is to have 3,000 respondents giving information before trauma healing, at the end of an equipping session or healing group, and 2 months later or so. And so many of you I just got news there's a suitcase full of forms from Bangladesh. I have lots of forms coming in now, and I thank those of you very much who have worked to collect those. The goal of the research is that we can help understand, what I think I said that this morning, just understand how effective is this with who, what kind of impact is it having. We're looking at reducing symptoms of trauma, increasing engagement with scripture, and what was the other one? In engagement with scripture, and then resiliency or helping others. I can't remember. Oh, I have it right here. There is, yeah. This was all going to be on the site, and it let me down. I'm so sorry. I saw it there earlier. So it's the impact of reducing symptoms, increasing engagement with God and Scripture, and assessing the impact of trauma healing on the local church's ability to be a healing community. So for the first 2 items, we are gathering these individual feedback at the 3 times. And then for the third one, we are doing right now pilot interviews with 30 churches. We've, Barasa, who is not here today, but maybe will be here tomorrow, carried out these interviews in East Africa where the trauma healing has been going on in these churches for at least 3 years to measure. In a way, we want the individuals helped, but even more, we want churches to be safe places that know how to respond to pain and be safe for people and help them heal. So we have those transcribed, and we will begin analysis 8 o'clock Monday morning once all this is over. So that's the 2 parts of it. what I would like to ask you is to consider if you would be willing to gather data. Let's see. So far, we have, and as of Saturday, I had 769 respondents to the data. A lot of them from Nigeria. World Renew has done a really wonderful job, but also some from other places. And that shows the places where they've come. We just need more data. We will collect data until we have the 3,000. So we don't have a firm month or date when we'll say we'll stop. We'll just collect, and I'll be putting out news about this, how far we are on it. The research forms are going to be on the website, and I think they might be there. I just can't see them. So we have the forms in Hausa, in French, in Romanian, Tiv, a language, Tiv or Tiv? Tiv, a language of Nigeria. We have them in, that's French, English, Arabic, Spanish. Those are the languages that we have them in so far. But there's some, what? Oh, I need to add that to the list. Oh, and Hausa. Hausa. All of those are on the website. I just can't see it. I saw it there. I tell you the truth. I saw it there earlier. So if you want to do this, it's questions. We've tried to make it a little bit story-based because it seemed like a lot of the people we work with can conceptualize more. 3 people. You know, Richard is really traumatized, and he has a lot of symptoms. Not you, Richard, but our Richard here. Joe is sort of on the path to recovery, and then Simon is really doing well. And so we go through a lot of questions, you know, which one are you most like? And that's basically, we have, how many questions? It's about 17 questions. This will help us to inform the program. Are there things that we're doing that really aren't making a difference? It'll help us to evaluate the impact, and it will give us empirical data. And the way that we're gathering the data, Matt had helped us with earlier data that was gathered so randomly that no matter how he tried, we couldn't really say anything about it because there wasn't enough consistency. So we are gathering this in a much more rigorous way. And we'll be able to hopefully publish articles in peer-reviewed journals, which will really help all of our trauma healing ministries because we get that question often, do you have any research? We're applying for a funding proposal. Do you got any research that would tell us whether this is working or not? Are there any questions about the research? One of the things that has to be respected in the research is confidentiality. You might think, I don't care if anybody sees my answers, what's the problem with that? But we really need to be very careful that no one who sees the answers knows what person filled that out. So there's a process, I won't bother you with all the details, but to make sure that it's confidential.
Is this just a questionnaire, a one-solve thing with each person?
No, time 1, time 2, time 3. So at the beginning of a equipping or healing group, at the end, you know, how do you feel now? And then at the end, how do you feel now? And then 2 months later, around 2 months later, how do you feel now in response to these questions? So it's the very same questions. So, yeah. We are not going to be doing it with the story-based because it's a written questionnaire and there's no way you can, it wouldn't be comparable. Yes? Okay. Are we all good? I think that's all the announcement. Is there anything else somebody else wants to say before we split into different groups of classic or children's or story-based to talk more about those programs? Let me just give you, I got 4 of your feedbacks for what you were solving, the problems that you chose to discuss. The first feedback, I only got it from 4 tables, so if the rest of you have, I didn't receive the papers. The first one table talked about getting materials to churches. I don't know which table that was. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Was it your table? It wasn't your table, the mystery table. Going through the denominational structure. Okay, okay, somebody must have written this. Using the denominational structure, allowing churches to vet through the material, and reputation of established mission organizations using the material. You want them to vet those or make them aware of it, or what?
So one of my group mates is having trouble with the churches. So the issue is making sure that they understand it's a reputable information, and also going and talking to specific denominations versus just churches that are non-denominational.
Excellent, yeah. The churches with structures, you can really, once you get the structure on board, you have a lot of ripples through it. And her last point was to provide research that it works at a lay level. And so that's what I was just talking about, is that we need to get your involvement in gathering data so we can provide her with the research. Another one on this one is to remember we have the Trauma Healing Advisory Council with them. Would you be embarrassed if I asked you to stand? Or anyway, there's Richard Winter is on our advisory council, and Phil. These are professors, psychologists. Matt Stanford, yeah. Bethany Williams in the back. Baraka Paulette from Rwanda, and then Diane Langberg, and you will be meeting Michael Lyles, and Pat and Dick are on the advisory council. I don't know where we lost. What? Dick and Diane. Dick and Pat and Dick. Yes, yeah, I had said, I already said those. So they are vetting all of our materials from a mental health perspective. So that can be helpful as well too. And that's in some of those promo brochures that they talk about that. So, and we're very thankful for your work in this advisory council. Really, really key. The other one was another table chose to talk about continuous training and regular supervision meetings. So different ideas about having continuing education topics, library resources, for problem solution library, facilitator gatherings like they're doing in Dallas and other places. Maybe you watch a video. So just upgrading your skills, read a book together or talk about it. And then expectations and limitations well stated, and remind people of those expectations. That was the idea, if I understand properly, was that facilitators understand they can't take on the whole world and solve everyone's problems. There's so much they can do, and they need to realize that and not feel bad about it, about having some boundaries for it. Okay, another table, I think it was this one up here, talked about advocate role. And we've had this as well, I can resonate with it, that sometimes you have people coming to initial equipping sessions that are really key to making this work, but they're not necessarily a facilitator. That's not their gift. That's not their calling. Sometimes they're better at advocacy or organization, which is logistics or what. They're committed, they're key, but they're not facilitator. So what do you do with those people? And sometimes because we don't have a real role spelled out, we've made them facilitators because we can't do it without them, but then that doesn't really work well either. Does anybody have a solution for that? I mean, there are more roles than facilitator to make this work. In the ABS world, we have program managers that actually manage the programs. We have I mean, I think there's, I don't, what they call them, they have different names for them, but basically fundraisers, that's what they do, that do that sort of thing. Did you have solutions other than just to create a role that you could recognize that this is a key role? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So how do you not lose them and provide them with a place on the team? So finding ways to give them names and things. Okay. The other group talked about time and urban involvement with the change. You know, urban people are very busy. So they spoke about offering the training in different formats, looking for a person of influence who could, you know, everybody's got time. It's just how you use it. So if you can get a main leader that says this is important, that's really helpful. And then using weekly meetings rather than some sort of, so those are some, then a equipping session or a workshop format. So those are some ideas. What I would like to do now is to have the children's here, the story-based here, and then maybe back there could Phil and Dana, could you each take a separate table group, because there might be quite a few people in those. And this is to really just discuss anything about the program that you have questions about that specific program. So far we've been talking more or less in general in the large group, but this will give you some more time to talk specifically about developments, questions you have. So we'll do that. We have actually, for once I have time. We have some time, almost an hour, to talk about those things. And then we will. Yeah. As far as I know, that's what I was suggesting. If you would like, if there is an interest in having a separate group for another variety of trauma healing, we can do that. But children's, story-based, children's and teens, and that could divide into two. Children's and teens, story-based and audio. We could have a separate group on audio if there's interest to understand more of how the audio program works. And then classic, the adult book program. Any other groups that are wanted? Okay, the time is yours, and we will go from there. I don't know how to measure this, but I would like to know, did that feel like there was not enough content for this this afternoon, or just about right, or too much content? Did you appreciate the time to chat and talk? Okay, it was a bit of a risk, because if you guys nobody had anything to say, but every year I've put too much in, so hopefully this was good. Ladies and gentlemen, there we are. Now we can see it. I was fumbling around. I just want to make one. You can stay where you are for right now. Oh yeah, they are coming in. But we're gonna give you just a few minutes to, let's see. Yeah, go back to your seats. Yes, go back to your seats. That's a great idea. Why didn't I think of it? Yeah, yes, the morning seats. I just want to show you one thing before the others come back. I have found the research forms. They are in fact on the website. So if you are interested in looking, do you remember Dana showed the facilitators home, and you log in, it says welcome facilitators, all of these things. I was looking in reports. They're not in reports. It's here at the very bottom. It says trauma healing impact feedback forms. Look at this. Look at this. Our ABS guys, the techie guys, worked very hard to get this ready for this afternoon. So I'm so happy. This will give you the overview. This is instructions for getting the data in English and in French. Well, I'm off, that's fun. But here are the forms A, B, and C in English, Spanish, French. Oh, if you're using it where the audio programs are playing, we have one different question about whether they heard the audio. Whoops, whoa, 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 whoa. Arabic, Romanian, Tiv, Hausa, and I have to upload the Bangla. So it would be great if we could get the research, and if you're interested, write me, or you can look at the forms online. That brings to our close the end of our experience track. The other group, the orientation track, will be joining us momentarily, and then we're going to have some artistic digestion with Mary Beth and her ideas and crew, perhaps. So thank you. Thank you very much. If you need to stretch, get a beverage before they show up, this is the time to do it.
All right, we're going to begin. So I'll just need your attention for just about 1 minute. And I'm going to let you know what you're going to do, what you're going to work on at your table. Just make sure that you are with some people that were in the same room with you this afternoon. Okay? All right. It's not that you had to be at the same table or in the same discussion group, but you need to have been in the same room. All right? Okay, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to think together about the journey that you had this afternoon. You can think about this morning too if you like, but I'd especially like you to think about this afternoon and some key points or key ideas that really struck you, right? Together, you're going to discuss that. I'll give you just a couple minutes. And then what I'd like you to do is to take either a large sheet of paper, or you can take some paper from the table. And together, I'd like you to create some symbols that represent these key points for you. They're memory tools that will help you remember these key points that you are in agreement about. Okay? Any questions? You agree with the table. Great question.
I'm always in agreement with myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can agree with the table, but not agree with yourself.
Yeah. There's a debate up here about whether you tend to agree with yourself or not agree with yourself, so we won't go there. This is for you to discuss together. What were a few key points? You gathered so much today. If we measure how much was poured into your head, there's just so much material. So we'd like to give you an opportunity to think through together a few key points that you will walk away with. And if you decide, you can choose from this morning, but I'd especially like you to think about this afternoon too. All right? Okay, go for it. Talk together, and you only have about 10 minutes to do this. Just in a half a minute, I'd like you to complete things as far as you can. Some of you are already deciding that you will take this back to your hotel room tonight and finish it, and that is great. You can frame it if you would like. Tomorrow we'll have push pins for hanging these up if you want to, okay? What I'd like you to do is to find another group at a table near you, and I would suggest that you just go to find a table right near you, and I'd like you to share with them what you've created. Okay? Key points from the day and what you've created. All right, one group is going to share with us, but I want you to know we'll hang these up tomorrow. So you can finish them if you feel like they're unfinished, or you can just leave them at your table and we'll put them up. And then tomorrow we'll have a chance to dialogue together more and talk about what we've created. All right, so this group is going to share with us. Bethany, you want to use that?
Oh, sure. So these were just the points that stood out to our team today. And they creatively orchestrated this in this art piece. The improvement of the facilitator portion of the website. Thank you. Thank you, Harriet. The teen curriculum, which we're very excited about. Learning what others are doing around the world. That's a world.
It's a small world after all.
Yes.
And then the use of power in abuse. So this is a hand representing power and then a feather representing the vulnerable. And then there was a story of a prayer rug. Would you like to share that story briefly?
I think it was in general. The use
Oh,
of,
she was going to share, yeah.
I was going to savor the trip.
In the oral session this afternoon, Margaret shared with us that when we have others of different faiths in our group, that when we take our pain to the cross, that it's possible that you can lay a prayer rug next to the cross so that people can see and illustrate that they can lay their pain down. So it was a good illustration of the oral stories.
Thank you. I wish we had time for each group to share because there's so many creative expressions here. What I'd like you to do now, though, just a reminder that you leave these papers on the table if you're finished with them, and we'll make sure to hang them up for tomorrow. And then we'll have a chance to dialogue more at breaks and other times about the pieces. What I'd like to do now, though, is before we close, I'd like you to take a few minutes in prayer. This journey today wasn't just about information download, but it was really about what God wants to show you for your future steps forward. And so I'd like to invite you to just take some time to come before Him and pray and ask Him what is on His heart for you from what has happened in this day. Right? I'll give you a few minutes for that, and then I'd like you to break into pairs. I'll tell you when, and just pray for each other. Okay? When you're ready, I just invite you to turn to someone near you, and just in pairs, go ahead and share what God has laid on your heart, if you want. Share as much or as little as you'd like in the next few minutes, and then pray for each other. And I'll pray to close us. So you just have about 4 minutes to do this together. Okay. Lord, it's so sweet to have you meet us in this day. Thank you for not only meeting us as a body of Christ, but also personally. For each one of us, Lord, there are things on your heart for us. And I pray that not only in these moments, as you've spoken to each of us and revealed more of what's on your heart, I pray that you would allow us to understand on deeper levels the things that you desire for us as we step forward in ministry and purpose. Thank you again, Lord, for loving us and for the wonderful, unique ways you meet each of us in our gifts, in our talents, in our joys, in our pains. And as we bring all this to you, Lord, I just want to thank you in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Harriet will have some closing words for us.
My closing words are have a good evening, get some rest, have some fun. We'll see you at 8:30 tomorrow morning, or if you come earlier. Thank you. we just have a couple minutes. I would like to ask each table if you could write down, a little bit about what your outcomes of your discussion, the outcome is, and give that to me, and I'll look at it and see what we want to feed back to you, but that will then be your release to go have tea break. Just write it on a paper and give it to me. I just need kind of the outcomes.